Tails and Scales, The Empty Throne. Chapter 13. To Save an Underground Princess. The two guards escort Silvus back to the dungeons to his cell. In the cell, he sees Ico trying to sleep on the stone bed, rocking back and forth, complaining how uncomfortable it is. He stops to see Silvus has returned, gasping relief that he is back. "By the spirits, you're back! What did you and the king talk about?" Ico asks, wanting to know what happened between him and the king. Silvus grabs a nearby stool to sit on and explains what he and the king spoke about. He tells Ico the king's name, then about their plight, and finally revealing that their Alpha King knew about them. Ico's face is jaw-dropping. He is shocked by the news explained to him. "Dude, no way! The Alpha King knew about this place?" Ico shouts, earning him a nod from Silvus. "Correct, and he actually made a promise to help them. Did you tell their king that Salter is dead?" "Sadly, yes, I did, but I tried to negotiate with them by offering to speak with the Mystatorium on their behalf," Silvus explains in response to the hard question. Ico gives Silvus an inquisitive look, sitting on the stone bed that reads, "Were you really going to do it?" Silvus tells Ico he will do it when given a chance. Still skeptical, Ico lies back on the bed, trying to get comfy. He asks, "What do you think is going to happen to us now?" Silvus gets back on his feet to walk slowly to a nearby wall, leaning his back on it, and replies, "There is going to be a trial for us tomorrow. The best we can do is pray to the spirits that it goes well," obviously not satisfied with the answer. Ico huffs, then shifts his entire body on the bed, facing the wall. Silvus climbs onto the other bed, hoping to sleep. He only gets another nightmare about his mother being tortured, making him toss and turn for the rest of the night. Silvus wakes up to banging sounds from the cell bars. Ico wakes up too, as both cousins could see 4 guards standing in front waiting, carrying spears. "Follow us! It is time for the trial!" one of the guards orders, as the other one opens up the cell with his key, allowing the cousins to walk with them out of the dungeon. Silvus and Ico are escorted to a large Oriental-style throne room filled with various nobles or ruling clans gathered around the sides near 2 large dining room tables filled with food, which is unfamiliar meat and bugs. The males wear colored sleeveless silk Oriental vests, while the females wear jewelry. As the 2 cousins cross the light blue carpets, in front of them is the throne, in front of a large glowing root with King Yi Jin on it. Between him are 2 of his hatchlings, one of them being Kree, whom Silvus met last night, and who looks at him like a flying predator scanning for its prey. Also with the king are higher-ranking members of the nobility, with their own guards standing with them. One of the guards orders Silvus and Ico to kneel. Once on their knees, a kobold servant wearing a puffy silk hat walks up with a parchment and reads, "Ladies and gentlemen, today is the trial of 2 trespassers from the surface world." The present nobles in the room gasp, with gazes glued to the cousins. At the same time, they whisper to each other quietly their thoughts about them. King Yi remains on his throne, turns his attention to Silvus and asks, "What are your names?" with a wink, letting him know that he knows his name, but the court does not. "My name is Vessel Silvus, and this guy with me is my cousin, Vessel Ico, your majesty," Silvus explains very calmly, earning awkward whispers from the nobles, as if they expected him not to comply so smoothly. Ico, still kneeling, is just as surprised that his cousin spoke so calmly. With a smile, the king speaks once again. "Do you deny trespassing into our territory?" "No, sir. Ico and I did somehow end up into your territory, but—" "The prisoner confesses!" Silvus is cut off by one of the elite nobles standing next to the king, wearing a purple coat, looking serious. The other noble, the one wearing a red coat, tries to calm him down. "Whoa, easy there, Pai Wei. Easy. You're always too soft on prisoners," the noble named Pai Wei accuses. The other nobles begin to argue with each other. Silvus and Ico can only cover their ear holes because the arguing is getting loud until the king shouts, "Silence!" The crowd goes silent, including the two elite nobles. They all turn their gazes at the king, who looks annoyed to the core. He sits back down, calmly to speak. "First off, Swan Wu is right. Pai Wei, you really need to stop drawing conclusions. It is true that they confessed the crime, but we need to listen to why and how they ended up here." The king points to the two cousins, allowing Silvus to continue speaking. "To be honest with you all, we were being chased by some strangers. We needed to hide, so we came across a cave, not knowing that it is yours." "So you came here to hide?" "Yes, your majesty. Not because we are fugitives, but a lot of things are happening on the surface." Silvus bows once again and explains all he knows about the troubles happening on the surface. The nobles continue to talk among themselves. Kini sits up straight and announces, "So it is settled. The crime was unintentional, which is why I have decided that the punishment will be to perform a task for community service." The two cousins are relieved that the punishment will not be harsh. Ico is glad that he won't be executed. Silvus himself is glad that it will be a chance to be able to continue on his journey after doing whatever task Yi wants him to do. The relief is short-lived when a pair of doors burst open, getting the crowd's attention. A scout comes through, looking exhausted. Yi stands up from his throne, fuming at the sudden interruption. "What is the meaning of this?" He demands the scout, who makes a bow along with a quick apology. "Forgive me, your majesty. I have dire news concerning the whereabouts of Princess Fi," the scout fearfully explains, making the crowd gasp. "My youngest daughter? You found her?" Kini demands further. The scout runs up to Yi and whispers the news into his invisible ear. In shock, Yi sits down on his throne, slouching down. The male blue kobold walks up to Yi and asks, "Father, is everything okay?" with a voice filled with concern. Kree, however, looks calm for some reason. Silvus notices it from a distance, giving her a raised brow. What kind of siblings will not be concerned for his or her own kin, he wonders. The king looks to his son and then back at the male raptors, giving him an idea. He stands up once again with a hopeful smile to proclaim the task at Claw. "Due to the turn of events, I have decided what the boys are going to do for community service. I would like them to join my eldest and only son, Prince Ki, on an expedition to the outer roads to rescue my youngest and other daughter, Fi." The crowd go wild, with cheering while Silvus and Ico gasp with different reactions. Based on the stories Yi has told him, Silvus makes a soft swallow in nervousness. He looks to Ico, who for some reason is making a big grin with gleam in his eyes. "Ico, are you okay?" "Dude, we're gonna save a damsel in distress." Keen Yi, who heard the exchange of words between the cousins, smiles and turns to Ki. "My son, would you be so kind as to escort our esteemed guests to the royal forge so we can make some armor and weapons for them?" "I will be honored, father," Keen replies with a bow. He walks down the steps from the throne and tells the cousins to follow him to the forge. In the middle of the streets of Shima, a pair of doors in the noble district opens up, with a battalion of 50 soldiers in blue coming out along with Silvus and Ico, both wearing the kobold carved chest armor and helmet forged just for them in the same color. Silvus is given a curved sword and Ico is given a longbow and steel arrows. The two cousins march next to Prince Ki, who is leading the entire troop. The lower class kobolds take notice and gaze curiously to see that all the troops are marching all the way to an enormous gate that Silvus guesses leads to the outer roads. Stopping them in their tracks, Prince Ki runs up and faces his troops.
Listen up, soldiers. Beyond these gates leads to the outer roads. You all might have heard stories of fearsome beasts and savage marauders, or the lost that dwell beyond.
Silvus looks around to see the small soldiers are nervous, to judge by the way they shake their bodies. This shows that they probably did hear stories. Ico stands proud, as if claiming he is not afraid of anything, making him do a small growl in annoyance, turning his eyes back to Key.
A while ago, my youngest sister Fee was missing. But now we know where she is thanks to a scout. It is our duty as the king's soldiers to go out there and save any bold in trouble, especially a member of the royal family. We are trained for this, men. This is the moment.
Key draws his curved sword high. It is not just any sword. The sword Key is wielding is pure gold. It must be an important symbol as the soldiers behind Silvus all cheer, along with the peasants nearby who listen to the speech. The prince points the sword at the gate and shouts, "Open up!" A loud clunk sound is heard. The gates slowly open up to reveal a big subterranean opening. Key runs back to the group and begins their march. Once they are in, the gates closes behind them. The outer roads is a subterranean tunnel system built inside a cave deep underground. Silvus cannot help but admire the giant wide road built long ago. He even takes interest in the wildlife he never saw before, like the giant skink-like creatures he saw while he was inside a cage. He could have sworn he saw a giant insect or two crawl around the walls.
Admiring the scenery,
Silvus hears the voice of Key call out to him. He turns his head down to see Key looking at him. I read about places like this in books, but to see it in the scales? Silvus beams around the cave, filled with glowing roots, like a hatchling discovering Wonderland. He looks to the right to see some geysers blowing from a lake. To his left, he spots a pack of large frilled lizards scavenging for prey.
This road we walk was built by my ancestors long ago in order to expand our underground empire. My father explained what is going on, right?
Key assumes. Oh yes, he did. Must be rough to live in a society on the brink of destruction, Silvus expresses his sympathy. He tells Key what his father had told him when he showed him the wall of stories the other day.
No argument here, soldier. Silvus, right?
Yep.
Well then, what is it like to live on the surface?
Silvus beams at the question. Ico, who sees his cousin's reaction, whispers, "Here we go," and rolls his eyes, knowing what he's going to do. During the entire march, Silvus gives a lecture to Key all about the surface world, the open sky, how raptor society works, and as well as their beliefs. They stop at a crossroad to rest. It allows Silvus to ask about bits of Kobold beliefs, especially this mother root they seem to be bringing up, which is heretical to an Avalonian raptor like himself. So, Key, what can you tell me about this root that you guys keep mentioning, like it's some kind of god? Silvus asks the smaller prince, who in turn bursts out laughing, along with the soldiers who overheard. Silvus gives Ico a confused look, not knowing why what he said is funny, only to earn him a shrug from his cousin, telling him he did not know. With his laughter dying down, Key explains, "We kobolds venerate the root. We do not worship her like a god. We believe the root is a living thing that we are born from, making us part of nature. When we kobolds die, we are claimed back to the root's embrace." So you guys believe nature is your afterlife? Silvus takes out a scroll and quill from his carrier pack and writes up what he learned, earning an eye roll from Ico. Key, however, seems to be intrigued as Silvus continues to write.
So you raptors believe in supernatural stuff?
We raptors have always liked to base our traditions around the concept of mist, the source of power we use to perform some neat tricks.
Tricks? What sort of tricks?
Let me show you. Silvus lifts up one claw to demonstrate his mist ability to form an ice ball to show Key. Key and his soldiers get spooked at the sight. Silvus twirls the ice ball with one talon, with a smirk on his face. This, my friend, is mistcraft. The ability to tap into the mist to perform powers that will make you question reality.
And you can do this anywhere? Could all raptors like yourself do it?
Key asks him. As long as I have enough mist stored within myself, I can do them anywhere. To answer your other question, any sentient creature blessed like raptors could perform mistcraft. But it takes a lot of practice to get used to it. The more you use mist, the longer you can use it until it depletes. When mist depletes, a mist caster needs to wait for the mist to recharge.
How do you recharge?
Because mist is everywhere. As long as the wellsprings exists, mist simply flows inside of us. Silva states as his eyes flash blue, spooking Key and the soldiers even further.
Did your eyes just flash?
Key asks him. That means I am fully recharged, since I did not really use much. Key is going to ask another question until a shrieking sound from the right side of the road is heard. The entire party jumps back on their feet and turn their heads to where the screech came from. What the heck is that? Silvus asks Key, hoping he knows what they are dealing with.
That is a shriek of a pack of rantulas getting ready to attack. Better check it out.
Key motions all the soldiers to follow to the right side of the crossroads into a deep tunnel. The entire battalion come across a big opening with huge webs on the walls to see giant furry spiders, rantulas, are attacking a group of kobolds who are fighting back fiercely. From side of the tunnel, the battalion halt their tracks to observe what is going on. Silvus peeks his head to take a closer look. He sees a party of at least 50 kobolds engage with a swarm of rantulas by the hundreds, wearing black oriental armor. On the armor is painted a dark green rotting kobold head. Who are those guys? He asks Key.
They must be the rotting Ronin, an army of criminals, those looking for a place in life, and dishonored nobles sentenced by the royal court in order to regain their honor.
So you guys put criminals into an army? Just what we need, Ico sarcastically states.
The rotting Ronin are actually an order of the best warriors the kobolds of Shima have trained to protect any threats from the outer roads. Look!
Key points to the battlefield for the cousins to observe the battle. He probably wants them to see for themselves how special these warriors are. On the battlefield, the Ronin warriors seem to be handling themselves pretty well against the rantulas, thanks to being armed. Being armed with long swords keeps the Ronin's safe distance away from the poisonous bite attacks. One rantula tries to swipe one of its thorned legs at one male Ronin warrior with a two-clawed sword pointed at it, only for him to slice it through, making the rantula shriek in pain. The male kobold takes advantage by sprinting towards it. Like the wind, it makes a big leap on its head. Then he impales his sword right through the head of the giant arachnid, squirting a lot of green goo, rantula blood, spraying at the kobold. By the spirits, did you see that, Silvus? Ico asks, looking very surprised. That guy just leaped onto its head and plunged it like a monster slayer. I did, Ico, and I have to say, that was amazing. They seem to have it under control, Silvus claims as he continues to gaze at the battle.
I wouldn't count on it yet,
Ico warns as he points at the holes to see more rantulas coming out, while the Ronin warriors can only watch as they show signs of exhaustion after dealing with the horde.
We better reinforce them. They might be good at fighting, but they can still get overwhelmed.
Key draws his blade and orders the battalion to charge, with Silvus and Ico following suit. They run down the rocky slope like a raging waterfall, making the Ronin warriors turn their heads at the sight of the stampede of soldiers rushing to their aid.
Reinforcements!
The leading Ronin warrior shouts out with excitement in his voice, while thrusting his blade up in the sky. The others did so too, feeling just as pumped. They rush alongside the main army and clash with the remaining rantulas that are crawling down the walls of the web-filled cave. Both the army and the Ronin warriors tear through the horde of rantulas. Silvus and Ico fight side by side, making sure neither of them gets killed. The rantulas, for a horde of giant bugs, are determined to kill their prey. Silvus uses his favorite lightning blast spell, by wielding his sword like a wand, flicking it to shoot lightning at the head of each furious arachnid. Based on what he sees, he believes the head must be a weak spot. He attempts to make another flick of his sword, covered in mist aura, only to get struck by a pile of web from behind. Stuck in the web, wrapping, he struggles to get out, while the rantula that struck him is about to pounce, only for an arrow to strike it in the head. Silvus turns around to see that the arrow came from Ico, who is running toward him as he shoots a few more arrows at the nearby rantulas that try to attack him or the other kobolds in battle. Ico uses his claw to cut off the webbing, freeing Silvus. The rantulas eventually flee and retreat, crawling into the holes like a bunch of whimpering wolves. The kobold army and Ronin all cheer for their victory, covered in rantula blood all over. Silvus, being helped up by Ico, looks into the cheering crowd to see Prince Key also covered in green, making sure his troops are okay. Among the surviving Ronin warriors, one male takes off his helmet to reveal his brown-scaled face with a large scar crossed on one of his yellow eyes, looking very grateful. One of his horns seemed to be cut off. He approaches the prince and kneels to show respect, as the other Ronin warriors do.
Thank you for the assist, your highness. You and your soldiers stormed in just in time. The honor is mine indeed, commander. Glad to help with that giant bug problem.
The Ronin commander laughs at Key's comment and gets back on his feet to explain the current predicament.
Not just giant bugs, your highness. We had to come across one or two of those lost giant crest-head snakes. You could say the usual for us, the rotting rodent trying to get them uncivilized trash away from Shima.
So the rotting Ronin are frontier defense? Silvus speaks up as he walks up to both Key and the commander, who drew his blade in fear, not knowing who the larger creature is. Key stops him before things go out of hand.
Forgive my ignorance, but who or what are they?
The commander asks Key, sealing his sword on his back.
They are our esteemed guests from the surface world. My father charged them to come with us to rescue my youngest sister, Princess Fee.
Key turns his head to Silvus.
To answer your question, yes, they are primary frontier defense, sworn to protect what is left of us from Shima.
You know, for a bunch of little guys, you Ronin guys are pretty tough, Ico adds with a smirk, earning him looks from all the nearby kobolds. One of them even demands what he meant by it, ignoring his cousin's smart-tail comment. Silvus looks back to the now calmed-down commander and explains, Well then, yes, we have been sent by your king to look for Princess Fee. Have you seen her?
We did. We did see a rantula carrying a maiden, which is why we are here.
The commander points to a big ball of web sticking onto the wall. Without giving orders, Key gasps and rushes up to the ball. Silvus, Ico, and the commander follow suit. Key takes out a sword and cuts the ball open to reveal an adorable bright light blue female wearing a necklace falling into his arms. That must be Fee, Silvus thinks, without noticing Ico looking at the female with bright red face. The female, Fee, slowly wakes up, revealing her light green eyes. Confused, she looks around, surrounded by members of both the royal army and the rotting Ronin, along with two creatures she has never seen. She turns her head to her brother and weakly asks him,
Where am I?
You are in the middle of Rantula territory, at the outer roads. You had us all worried sick. Key softly scolds at her, a bit due to her being gone for a long time.
But I remember a sister telling me to Mia at an abandoned glaive, only for me to get taken by these things.
Fee tries to defend her action. As much as Key wants to scold her, There is something more important to discuss.
Wait a minute. Cree told you to be around here?
She did. She told me to meet her at a glaive, wanting to show me something. Then I felt something hit me on the head, and now somehow I ended up here.
Fee looks around and spots the two cousins.
Who are you two?
She asks. Silvus makes a soft bow to her and tries to say, "My name is Vessel Silvus, milady," and gah! Ico cuts him off by rushing past him. In front of her, Ico kneels on one knee with a flamboyant expression on his face and greets her. "I am Sir Vessel Ico, milady, mighty hunter and future knight-to-be." He takes one of her little claws and places a kiss, making her cheeks flush.
Oh my gosh, a hunter you say? And what is a knight? They must be really bad.
The rescued says in a peppy tone. Her tone seems to excite Ico a lot. By the way he smiles, Silvus awkwardly watches his cousin's sudden interest in the kobold female. Of all the flirting Silvus remembers Ico doing, seems to be very interested in the smaller creature, no taller than his hip. He turns his head to Key and whispers, I believe we have a damsel to escort back." Nodding in agreement, Key coughs into his claw, gaining both the princess and the lover raptor boy's attention.
I hate to interrupt this moment at first sight, but we better get back to Shima pronto. I am going to have a big word with Kree when we get back,
he tells them, with both the royal army and Ronin marching back. Silvus takes one more look at Ico with Fee. Would you like to get to know each other while we head back, princess?
That would be lovely of you. Ico, right?
The raptor in front of her makes a grin, nodding yes. It's obvious that he has a crush on the princess. Silvus could not help but snout palm and turn around, only to see the army has stopped in their tracks. Wanting to know what is going on, he walks through all the way to the front next to Key, who looks like he is in a trance. "What's going on?" he asks the crown prince. Key points for him to look and sees an army of at least 200 kobolds marching down the slope entrance, wearing green armor with weapons drawn. Silvus's first thought is that they are possibly lost kobolds in Banner Tree, but he shakes off the thought, seeing the unknown army holding flags and organized. They seem to be led by the kobold wearing a dark green cape. They stop in their tracks once they are 6 feet away from the allied army. The kobold leading the unknown army steps forward. He takes off his helmet to reveal a white-scaled face with hues of dark teal. He seems to be in his late 20s, just like Key. His yellow eyes gaze at both Silvus and the gang with utmost fury, seeking revenge. With his eyes landing on Key, he says,
Key Jin, you have fallen right into a trap.
The leading enemy kobold draws his sword, as do the others behind him. In response, the royal army and Ronin draw their weapons to prepare. Silvus too prepares his blade, filling it with mist aura, while Ico draws his bow and arrow, trying to protect Fee, who cowers behind him.
What is the meaning of this? Identify yourselves at once,
Key demands, while standing his ground with his blade, pointed at the green-armored enemy. The leading kobold raises his blade up high, and with a face of fury he shouts,
I am Jiang Shu, and on behalf of the Shu clan, we will have our revenge and restore our rightful claim to the royal throne.
End of chapter 13. Please subscribe, comment anything, and also, I am so sorry for my stuttering. Ciao.